and welcome to New Meta, a Dota 2 podcast. I'm Joe, and today I'll be your host, filling in the boots of travel in Stan, the Magic T, who's away this week. As ever, this is your Friday fix, and today we'll be contrasting hardcore versus casual approaches to Dota. Here to join me are the two hottest names in the Dota 2 podcast scene. First, we have a UK Dota LAN winner. He spammed Mars to get immortal. Champion of the 2018 York Showdown, it's Taco. How you doing, Marco?
I'm doing great. That's a fantastic intro. Big build up, big hype to that intro. Delivered.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Also, joining me today is a player who I met at TI4 and almost killed within 24 hours of meeting him. His Dota 2 wisdom could fill many tombs of knowledge. He is truly magic. Stick around and hear me say, come dine with me. How's it going, Adam?
That's great. Wow. That's
Wow.
Wow.
Stan's he's got some competition. I will just say that.
Stan host, Munka S.
Yeah. He's never
How's
called
it-
me magic.
How are you doing, guys?
I'm good. I'm ready to try this out. Stan is he's like the glue that holds all this together. So we'll see.
We'll see if we can keep this together. Big boots to fill, but on with the show we go. I hope everyone listening had fun last Wednesday in the in-houses. They happen through the Discord, so if you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. Links in the description below. And if you're in the Discord and you want to get your badge and region tags, just click on the welcome channel and there's some instructions how to do that. But anyway, on into the show. Seeing as I'm here, I'm a long-time Dota spectator, player, fan, enthusiast. But I'm a casual player at best. Since I met Adam 5 years ago at TI4, I've probably clocked just in the number of hundreds of games, whereas I had Adam do some fact-checking. And how many games have you got in these past 5 years, Adam?
I think we determined somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000. So probably just say 3,500.
In the last 5 years.
Yeah. That's
That's
a couple
pretty
games.
good, pretty good.
That's a couple of games a day at least.
Couple games a day keeps the something away.
keeps the real life away. That's,
Nice. So yeah, I'm your resident casual player. Adam is our serious Dota player. And where do you fall on the spectrum, Marco?
I have swings up and down. Well, I say I've had one swing. So in the last 5 years, I've really been like a semi-serious party player, playing our Tuesday night, Thursday night Dota games, and then never really focused on solos through uni. I was always keen for the party. And it's only really now in the last couple of months that I've knuckled back down to playing solos, which is like the first time since, I don't know, Dota 1 League. So now I'm like a solo grinder, which has been pretty fun.
That's kind of what happened is we had those stacks, and then we would play all those games together, and then school would start up again for Marco, and he would disappear for 3 months, with the exception of like bank holiday weekends or something.
Yeah.
We get a cheeky game in every now and again. He's like too focused on school.
Yeah, if you look on the activity graph, you can definitely see where the trends of term time are. But now it's just full steam ahead with both the solos and the party. It's been pretty fun recently.
Well, it seems like it's paying off. You got that immortal badge recently, despite whichever hero you may spammed.
Okay.
You won't ever live it down.
I'm not going to let it go. So in this given we've got this range of approaches to Dota, we're going to look at things like what we find personally difficult in trying to improve, or like for me, what I find difficult as a casual player, someone who's not playing every day. It's a bit harder to keep up with the meta. How do I jump back into games when I do play to not, tilt my party to oblivion? I hope I manage that to some extent, but then also to see the insight from Adam, who's playing a lot, what kind of tweaks and adjustments he makes to, always keep improving. Because We met and we were a similar rank, I believe, Adam, back then. But times have changed.
Yeah, so I guess we'll tell the story real fast about how we met. It was TI4. I went with a group of NA guys up to Seattle, and unbeknownst to me, there was this Brit chap who was on a, I don't even know what you want to call it, sabbatical, a gap year, a find yourself US trip. How would you describe what you?
Sabbatical's fine. Moving swiftly on.
Okay, yeah. Well, then you just happened to sit down next to me one day in Key
Yes,
Arena,
sir.
right? I mean, you were just like,
Yes,
"Hey,
sir.
is anyone sitting here?" And I'm like, "Oh God, social anxiety, Adam. Who's this random guy who's going to sit next to me?" And then I don't know, just went from there.
I mean,
We hit it off.
We must have played hundreds of party games since then. I think probably you were in over 50% of the games I have played in these past 5 years. That's probably a true stat.
Well, yeah, even like during the week, because we met early on in the week, we just like would sit together and watch the games throughout. And and you almost killed me. Learning how to drive the Seattle roads. I think you almost went on the wrong side of the interstate, I think, or the highway.
It turns out the NA Papagas drive on the wrong side of the road, so stay safe, kids, if you're driving out there.
You had Taco Bell for the first time, I think.
Yes, sir. What I remember most clearly was itching when you told me you were like 4K. I was like, yeah, everyone says the 4K. I cannot wait to 1v1 you mid Shadowfiend. Let's go. And I think we realized that dream within like that first week of meeting each other, and we like set up some like really ghetto LAN, one of your friends' houses, just to like try and sort that out.
Oh wow! How did that 1v1 go?
Well, I'm sure our memories of it are pretty different.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
Oh, okay, it didn't mean that much to Adam, which probably means he just rolled me and thought who's this scrub. But
no, it was nice because I remember I think I cracked 4K before going up there.
Yeah, you were telling me. I think you played some Lycan to get there, maybe, if I remember right.
Or just, I don't remember if it was Sniper Troll Patch, or I might be getting my time, because I know I got 4K and I sat on that for like 2 years and didn't try and do anything with it. But I remember, I was like, okay, this guy is cool. He sat next to me. Like, we're having a good conversation. He knows about the game. And then it was like, he's around the same MMR as me. How that's really interesting. Oh, we're like almost the same age. We're like kind of you're like the UK version of me. You know, like, it was really, and then we just like kept in touch. And then you introduced me to all these guys, and you are I guess that's the reason that the podcast even began in the first place. Who would have thought 5 years down the line?
Damn, son.
Yeah, that's deep.
So I suggest everyone go to TI at least once, and then you'll have your own podcast.
And you'll find your own soulmate and make a podcast 5 years.
Yeah, Dota soulmates. Yep.
Dude, it's like a mecca. It's like, you got to get there. Dota fan.
At least we got something out of it, because the final was terrible. The grand final was absolutely awful.
Yeah, that's so true.
The death ball meta.
Ball meta, yeah. It was the worst TI, the one TI I went to.
Yeah, I think it might actually be the worst TI.
That's all good. So before we jump into the meat of this tasty dish about our different approaches, there was someone posted a really good question/suggestion in the Discord last week, which was for you guys, Adam and Marco, you active players, to maybe talk about something that you've learned since last Friday, since the last episode, something you've learned or tried specifically to improve on in this week. So maybe that's a good place to start.
Do you want to go, Marco? I have, or maybe do you have something off the top of your head? Because I have something.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I learned a sick new pull as a support. So that was pretty cool. For Radiant side, that hard camp, I know like the normal side pull for that is that you eat one of those right side trees, I guess, and pull across. But and this is when Stan would always say he doesn't know if that's such a value pull or not. But I learned a new one where you can cut the trees, the more of the southern trees, and pull it straight down, or more like at an angle, I guess, down, and it connects right in front of the tier 1 tower on Radiant. So a very safe pull, and also even more effective at resetting creep equilibrium. So that was pretty cool.
Where did you see it? Where did you find out about this?
I was playing an in-house, an RD2L in-house. So there's somebody better than me was like, hey, I cut these trees. You should do this pull. And I'm like, okay. I was like, oh, I already cut this one. I'm like, no, this one's better. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. This is way better.
Nice.
So that's one of the good things about playing with people better than you is that you can learn stuff.
Absolutely. How about you, Marco? Is there anything in particular you've learned or been working to improve on over the past week?
So I've not actually played that much over the past week. I had about 5 days where I didn't play any games. What I think about in the last 2 days I've played a good chunk. What I'm thinking about that I've been focusing on, I think I've really thought about not dying as much as possible, or also shaping my NMA in games of sometimes I'll be in a lane feeling a bit despairing about, or maybe it should be going better, or a bit sad that, I feel like I should be getting a gank. Like there was a quap where I was laning against Deucer and I was beating myself up a bit because I was like, I've been kind of schooled this lane. I can't do anything. Deucer just comes, snakes it, clears it. It's not going great. But then I think I've been focusing on A, not dying, and B, keeping PMA, honestly. Like it's really general and really, really applicable to every game. But I'm looking at my match history and I've got low deaths, which I'm very pleased about. Like I had a support game, lasted 38 minutes, 3 deaths. Very, very happy with that. So yeah, I really think I've been trying to not die and not lose my head when you think something should be going better than it is. And it's worked out well, honestly. I'm on like a 9 green gaming, so it's definitely working.
That's sick.
The climb is real. But yeah, cool segue. I like that not segue, but segment to have for us to kind of think about something that we've learned or done better in the last week. It's quite a cool suggestion.
Yeah, shout out to that guy.
that guy. I can pull up the responses.
Was it recent? Because if you can pull it up, it might be worth an actual shout out.
Yeah, so this was okay. This was our UK Gainsworth was the one that suggested that. So shout out to Gainsworth. The
Big
one that
shout out.
that Marco knocked out of LAN, right? Or knocked out of the
Yeah, that was actually the York Showdown tournament.
Yeah.
Shout out to Gainsworth, super relevant. There'll be a rematch for the York Showdown, I'm sure, happening sometime soon.
In the in-houses. Pog. I feel like, Joe, you asked me a question and then I talked about how we met. And then we never looped back around to me answering the question.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the question was. I'm hoping on good Marco edits.
Yeah.
So shout out to Gainsworth in the Discord whose suggestion that was. So moving on into looking at kind of a more long-term view of Dota. There's probably a lot of listeners that are quite new to the game, but for us seasoned veterans, I mean, this is a long-term affair. I mean, as we mentioned, me and Adam met in TI4, it's 5 years ago. Me and Marco have been playing together for many years, over a decade probably. So there's a lot of new players come into the game and it's a super hard game and they want to get good. It's difficult. It is difficult. So I thought we could have a look at what kind of improvements we've made over the long term. Like if you reflect on yourself 5 years ago, which might be a foreign concept to some of the new listeners, like the new Dota players who are listeners. If we reflect on yourselves from 5 years ago, what are the biggest differences of the you then and the you now?
Something to add to that question for you, Adam, as well. Thinking about how, say, you meet Joe, TI4, you're this kind of 4K level, and then you stayed there for a couple of years. Why do you think that's the case? And then what do you think you weren't doing, or what were you doing but doing wrong, or what then was the break? That kind of thinking.
Okay. I guess The game is very different than it was 5 years ago.
Shall we touch on how it differed, or where we
Yeah,
think
how it, I
where we
guess.
think it
Well,
differed the most, or in what way
other
it was
than
different?
map changes, hero change. I mean, they're new heroes now. Item changes. Other than all that stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, every patch has its own meta game. I know. I mean, the one back then was the death ball meta, but just in terms, I mean, the game is more sussed out or solved, right? There's more players. Everyone's quicker to figure things out. The dispersal of information is much more widespread as the game has grown. So people are quicker to figure out combos or things that builds. But I guess with my climb, what happened was I got really excited that I got 4K, and then I got ladder anxiety about, like, okay, I reached my goal. That's a nice round number. I never want to see this go under 4,000 ever again. So I didn't really play solo ranked for like 2 years.
So what you're saying is that the Steam change for badges which cannot go down was a major fix for your, well, maybe not, but was a major fix for people's laddering anxiety.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I would not. I was still playing a lot of Dota, so I wasn't like anxious to, ever play a game. But solo, I just stayed away from because I just I was having more fun playing party games. And basically, for 2 years, all I did was random. This was old randoming where you got 825 gold, so that you could always start off with like a poor man shield or something. Rest in peace, poor man shield. But yeah, I did that for basically 2 years in party games, and that was a really good way. I felt like I learned almost every hero. There's some I still definitely stay away from, but I got a nice breadth of Dota education, not necessarily depth. But that's also why my most played hero is only like 150, 160 games out of 5,000 matches, and why I have like I think I have at least 30 games on 75% of the heroes or something.
Do you think that it would have helped you, or would you have rather, looking back over 2 years, say just limited your hero pool and clicked more solos, or like how do you view that against, say, going parties and not limiting your hero pool?
I think so. It ended up helping me eventually. It was a nice way, like at least some level of limits for every hero. And since I wasn't focused on climbing per se, it was just a nice way to have fun and learn. But then once I did get serious about climbing again, I climbed really fast. I feel like
It kicked in real strong what you'd kind of learned.
Yeah, because I was still, pretty seriously reading about everything, watching streams, watching YouTube videos. So I feel like I was still getting better the whole time. It's just I hadn't been solo ranking, and then it did go up pretty fast.
When I've been on, I think it's Open Dota or the IO Dota MMR tracker, and I'm pretty sure that website says that about 50% of the player pool plays on ranked across the globe, which I've found quite interesting.
I definitely think it's the most popular way people do it is just unranked games.
I'd say I'd almost be surprised that was so low. That 50%.
Maybe it was more than 50%.
This is Dota.rgp.io.
That sounds it, yeah.
Usually, if you search on Google, if you search Dota MMR distribution, it's like the first thing. And this says 84% are unranked.
Does it? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds more like it to me. I mean,
because people just want to play a quick little fun game, right? Or just go at a LAN cafe, other parts of the world, or just like I just want to play Dota chess, or I want to play all random deathmatch, ability draft, overthrow. I don't know, just something with friends.
Or just a random game of Dota where you're not like feeling the pressure or like ruining for others potentially, or you can try it on your hero, or yeah, just kick back and have fun.
Yeah, it can be fun when we play unranked games, and typically we have this kind of stacked party relative to what the enemy team's stack is, and so it feels really easy and chill.
Yeah, my party MMR is super low. It's like 1500 below ranked. So I don't know if there's some way that the matchmaker takes that into account. I don't think so, because sometimes you get some really weird games.
So I found it interesting what you were saying, Adam, about the approach. I mean, maybe it wasn't thought out; you were just doing what you wanted to do to have fun. But as it turned out, the approach you took of randoming a lot, playing a lot of games, getting a lot of volume in. It'd be interesting to hear what Marco thinks of this, because I feel like over recent episodes there's been, trying to help out new players and give advice, such as stick to one hero if you want to climb faster. But is there something to be said for just absorbing the game, randoming, absorbing, like building this foundation that you can then take? Or do you think it's better to focus more limited, and why?
I guess it comes to your own personal preference about why you're playing the game. I know for myself, and maybe you in the past, Adam, recently, and a lot of players, you play the game because you do have that carrot you're striving for, and you want to get that next star, that next medal. And so when we speak about climbing the ladder, I think it is agreed that limited hero pool, really master a few heroes or several heroes, is going to be the optimal way to go about it. But then I know we've had this discussion in the past of, well, are you really maximizing everything Dota has to offer if you can only play 10 heroes? In my eyes, I mean, talking 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or the value you get from being able to play all these different heroes is immense. And like Adam says with his random in, I would really back anyone to be like, I'm going to be a random player, just because you unlock so much fun potential in Dota as a game.
Yeah, it's definitely, and well, they changed randoming now, not just in terms of the Mango Fairy Fire start, but also because you can't get your 25 lead played heroes now. So you actually just can't learn those bottom heroes anymore. You actually have to pick them. I'll pick them.
I've not randomed for a year or so since they changed it. I used to be keen to random for the gold, but now I've literally not done it for a year or so.
Sorry, Adam, can you say that again for me and the listeners? It's changed such that you cannot get your lowest picked heroes if you're random.
Yes, that's a recent change. I want to say within the last 6 months.
Yeah, that's recent for me in my timeline.
Yeah, that you cannot get your least 25 played heroes. And I guess that's to protect people from getting like Shen or Meepo or Visage or something. But that was the only time I would ever play those heroes, right? As if I random, I'm like, oh, I got to figure this out. So
is that just a rank change, or is that in unranked as well?
I think that's unranked as well.
Oh, wow. Because, yeah, certainly the point of randoming was to, get the base. It wasn't to do a dice roll between the heroes that I already know how to play. So that's an interesting change to take into account.
Although back in the day, being an all random game, if you played poorly, people would get upset because they're always the people that were like, all random is only for people that know all the heroes already. That's the only reason why you should play this mode. And it's like, no, actually, it's the opposite. It's to learn. It's to learn all the heroes.
Talking about randoming and a big hero pool and learning heroes, what would you two say are the best ways to learn a new hero, and how did you go about doing it, and what do you think the biggest barriers are and all that?
Well, I just want to say before that, I think so. The randoming and the wide exposure to a bunch of heroes was nice, but I think Joe kind of hit it when he said volume, or one of you two said. I just think that I was playing a lot. I got better just off of playing, just getting a volume of games. It might not have been as efficient to random as opposed to spamming a few things, but I was playing a lot of games.
But then, so ignoring the question I've just asked to go on your point, although you're playing a lot of games, did you feel any point throughout the whole period of you not playing solos, did you feel like you were stagnating because you were playing party games, or because you were playing with lower stacks, or what do you think about the stagnation point? And you may be playing lots of games, but actually,
I don't think I felt like I was stagnant. I mean, I was stagnant definitely in MMR because I didn't try ranked, but I felt like I was just focused on having fun. I mean, I was playing with you guys mostly, right? So I had I had like an NA stack that I was the highest player in. And so those games would be a certain way, but then I would play with you guys. I mean, Marco, you're obviously higher ranked, and it was all like ancient plus basically. I mean, if you were the equivalent of ancient, so I was still definitely learning there.
true.
And every now and again, I mean, of course, you're going to get some guy on the other team that's much better, divine plus or whatever. But then, what was your original point? Your original question that I segued off of?
So the other question was about randoming and a wide hero pool, and your approach to learning a new hero, and the biggest obstacles to climb and the best way to do it. Thinking if we're thinking of new players and they've got 100 heroes facing them, how do you learn them all? How do you learn one of them? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So if you random a hero, you're not going to have time in the pick phase to watch a YouTube video on it. So I would just say use a guide. I've never really used them. They wasn't really as a supported of a thing. Like back when I was doing all that, I don't even know if they were implemented, but they are a nice general rule of thumb. For definitely for the first game. And the first game, I wouldn't expect anything, amazing. You just want to get a feel for the spells and stuff.
So I think it depends like where in your Dota like path you are. If you're a real new player, you do just need to get games in. It doesn't really matter what hero you play. I feel like there are some overarching just Dota things that you need to learn, especially now that roles have become more established. I think compared to 5 years ago in pubs, you can kind of get an understanding for what a role should do. And then in terms of the hero, something I always used to do when I was playing, since it came out, this didn't always used to be in the game, but take the hero into a lobby, take it into the trial mode, whatever it was called, the little
Demo mode.
the demo mode, because when you know Dota, like the game doesn't change, right? The heroes change, but the overarching game doesn't change that much. And I think it's more like being used to like the attack animation, right? The cast time on spells. And if you're just playing demo mode for 10 minutes, it's not like you're going to learn the ins and outs of this hero, but it will make a huge difference versus trying to learn those same things in game. Because imagine like how many times you cast your light strike array on Lena in a real game versus in demo mode on full refresh, right? You can just do 100 in a minute or whatever, and then you've got a feel for that animation at least.
Yeah, it makes me think of Dota 1, how when a new hero came out, I feel like it was harder to learn it because you didn't have demo mode. And I know you can make a lot of complaints about how Valve don't make it easy to learn Dota and whatever, but the fact that demo mode exists is a relatively really great feature of Dota 2. One of the few that really do help you learn and get familiar.
What we used to have to do was like open a lobby, and there were some commands like where you could put on cheats and you could go in a lobby and you could force the creep to spawn and you could make them go quickly to mid, and you could level up your hero and so on, but you had to create a lobby to do that, and
it was really awkward.
It was clunky, but it was still worth doing. And I think anyone who kind of wants to take the game seriously or wants to like improve quickly, get yourself in demo mode, click around on some spells that I really think it make a big difference to then the first time you went pick up that hero in an actual game. You're already like, you're comfortable with how it moves, with how it right clicks, and then you can concentrate on the other more like macroscopic Dota aspects, which is what you're mainly going to be learning, I think, as a new player.
Yeah, also with the hero, not just say how it moves or right clicks or whatever, but you really should start the game with a hero and understand literally what each spell does. And I know all of us will have every few games for sure. We'll be like, oh, what does this spell do? We've been playing Dota for 10 years and we'll still play a hero and go, but I'm not actually exactly sure like the duration or the damage or I mean, even just keeping up with hero changes.
Yeah, or
And
exit
like,
grades.
there was one like in an early episode where maybe it was Rubik or something. I had no idea that some spell had changed or whatnot. Like any Dota player will not always fully understand heroes it's playing. So genuinely like say to yourself, right, basically what does this spell do? This spell, and then when you're in a game, like you're aware of it and you're thinking of using your spells and using them in the correct time and all that. And yeah, I think that's
Nullfield versus Arcane Supremacy. I think
just
that's what happened.
random. Yeah, things like this. And honestly, there's a lot of heroes and a lot of spells to know, so don't overlook them.
Can I shout out guest Nick on this point? So another thing for learning heroes, as Mark is saying, understanding what the spells do. I think it really does go a long way. So I remember when like Oracle was new, and so Nick's famous in our party games for crying that he doesn't know what Oracle spells do. Still,
Yeah, if you're in the Discord, you'll have seen him say about 10 times in the last week, "Oh yeah, I don't know what Oracle does. I've been meaning to learn him."
yeah, but remember, and he was, yeah, exactly. He was crying about it. I remember this so distinctly. I don't know if he just did this to make me feel good, but like I read the spells and understood them, and maybe watched like a 2-minute YouTube video that kind of summarized the basic like combos, and then I played Oracle the first time, and it was fine. It's like if you know what the spells do, you're already halfway there.
Yeah.
You don't want to figure that shit out in a game. You want to just have a read and take the effort to just learn what things do.
It's genuinely like a 15, 30-minute investment that does go a long way. And it's kind of applicable to, like you say, you could be a new player or you could be a relatively new player but not played every hero. For any kind of stage of learning a hero, it really does go a long way to spend a bit of time getting your head around what your spells do and how they interact. Because most commonly as well, heroes' spell utensils have synergies and whatnot. Also, similar to spells is items. It makes me think of a point when I listened to the support items pod, I realized I didn't make. But when we were talking about Glimmer Cape and why it's good, I remember, and I mentioned Nick didn't know what Glimmer Cape did, but I remember the game it happened, and Nick was thinking, oh, the invis was the like main / only component of Glimmer Cape. And I remember there was this fight where he's got Glimmer Cape, and I'm like, yeah, he's going to use it on me and save me, give me this 45% magic resist. And he didn't. And then I'm like flaming him, being like, why are you not using Glimmer on me? And he said, oh, they've got detection or lightning bolt's going to reveal you. What's the point? And he literally had no idea that it gave 45% magic resist. Things like that.
So before we go full on down the burn train of Nick, shout out to yes, Nick, quality support player who's put up with so much of our shit over the years. Great guy, great player, and this was a anomalous moment.
Yeah, it's just like you just can't even blame somebody if they just don't know, right? It's like so you just have to know. Or
Gotta know.
if you learn, then you know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But now he casts it, right? So
and now he knows, and now he's better, right?
Honestly, that's what Dota is to me. Is like I do something wrong and then I learn why. Like, oh, I should have did this. You know what I mean? That's how I don't learn any. It doesn't stick in my head if I do something well. It's like, oh, I really did bad there, and then that's like the nugget that like sticks for the next game.
Yeah, exactly. And if you can extract more of that, so that time where your team like feeds or makes a really bad decision, and then you end up getting baited in and dying or whatever it is, instead of feeling annoyed by what happened, is there something you could have done better? Because that's where you could improve, even in those hard moments. That would probably separate the most quick of ladder climbers versus anyone who's kind of stagnant in a bracket thinking it's a trench they can't get out of.
Agreed.
Also, just want to go back to the question about learning heroes just briefly, because I feel like having run a hero in demo mode and got a feel for it, I was always one to just take that hero straight into solo ranked, for better or for worse. It's so like the heroes that I now am comfortable to come back and play with, and I'm someone who's now just playing like 1 or 2 games of Dota a month, maybe jumping in with party games with Immortal and Divine players, and I'm a Legend Scrib. the heroes am comfortable with are the ones that I did do that kind of grind in solo ranked with.
Lashrak, Marana, and Pudge. Am I right?
Maybe the Pudge is a bit off
exactly.
the mark.
The Pudge is questionable.
I mean, you played a lot of games with it, at least.
That's one I spammed in solo ranked, and that got me a nice roller coaster dip in my MMR. But yeah, like the Lesh and the Marana that I spammed, like I'm happy to just pick it up, even though it might be, even if it was like 2 years since the last time I played, I'd be happy to jump straight in with those heroes. So again, that's a trade-off because probably learning them in solo ranked meant I tanked some MMR, but it's like the real battleground. It's like the real gauntlet. You really do get to like push to your limits there, rather than if you play a party game with like low ranked friends. I feel that can often drag you down because you get away with making bad habits. I feel like this is something that has affected Marco a lot. I'm not sure what you actually think about it, bro, but I feel like you playing with all the scrubs often can like drag you down a little. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it touches on how I've not really. So I have played solos in like the last 3-4 years, but kind of sporadically. And when I have, I mean, I'll play the solos to get that Divine 5 badge or Immortal last season or whatever. But then I wouldn't play enough to climb, and I wouldn't just auto climb in the few games I did play. But yeah, playing parties, you do get sloppy if you are playing below your level. You start not focusing enough. It's not that I play unfocused, it's that I know that I can play in a certain way and get away with it and still win the game. But then if you apply that to a higher average ranked game, you'll get away with less, and you need to be cleaner and you need to be more disciplined if you are going to close the game when the players are better. So yeah, it definitely can give you bad habits, and I think that's what the stagnation point I was thinking about before as well. If your stack was like that NA stack, if it was lower ranked, I wondered if that kind of stopped you getting better at the game. Because yeah, like Joe mentioned, for me, I feel like it's hard to not stagnate if you're playing lower average games.
Yeah, I don't know about at the time with that NA stack. I don't know if I stagnated because of that, but I've been kind of having that struggle this week. It's kind of interesting where I've played with one of my former RD2L teammates, some just duo queue, and he's legend 4, and we joke it's like a boosting service or whatever, wanted me to play with him. We went 5-0 this week, and he binked up to legend 5, but then I'll play in those in-houses, RD2 in-houses, where I'm like one of the last people picked because I'm one of the lowest ranked as Divine 1. And I just feel
is
completely
it ranked in the R2DL?
These are in-houses, not like actual drafted
not the
team.
league.
Yeah, not the league.
I see.
Yeah, so this is just like the higher, because that just kind of goes along with the people that be interested in doing the in-house stuff are usually the higher ranked ones. Yep. And it's like, I just am completely lost in those games. Whereas when I'm playing with my former teammate, like we rolled almost every game. Like I felt like I could carry those games no matter like whatever position. And then I get into the other in-house, I'm like, I'm so bad.
So why is this? What is the big difference between those two games you're playing?
Well,
and your struggles?
I am playing core. I'm playing core in the lower ones, and then support in the higher ones. But it's just like I don't know. It's just you don't get away with as much. You're just punished over and over. And I went a bad item build on Winter Wyvern, and I was definitely punished for it. And I went for it anyways because like, well, this is what I would build, and it would be good. And it's like, well, not in this game. Like they had a Zeus, and I went Aether Lens Blink. And do you think I ever got a Blink off that game? No.
Yeah, that sounds
cool. No. Should have. I mean, to be fair, I did not get the Blink until like they were almost taking megas because I spent 6K on support items, but it was a tough one. that game was really rough. I was just like, I'm lost.
But I think that speaks to the more general message of it's kind of like anything in life where if you're trying to improve at it, if you can play with people who are a bit better than you, but they're not dragging the MMR up by like 1,000, say, where you'd just be completely just lost and wasting your time and their time. But if you can find party stacks that pull you up a bit, there's probably a sweet spot there where you learn the most. Whereas in reverse, if you're playing in an average below your level, like Marco was saying, you're going to not be as focused, you're not going to be pushing yourself, you're probably not going to be learning. And then I guess the key to the solo ranked players is you're on the edge of your ability zone by virtue of you're playing at whatever MMR it is. So it's on you to push yourself. But I think it can be easier if you do get into a party where it raises the MMR average a little bit.
A question to that: what's your view on the comparison between you're playing in this party game where the average is higher, and therefore you're in this high quality game, you're out of your depth a bit, you're getting pushed? Is that the most important factor, or do you think playing with better players that kind of communicate with you or teach you a bit in the game or after the game, talking about why it went wrong, or is that not as important as you just trying to absorb and focus what happened in the game? Do you see the 2 points I'm getting at? Because also generally, learning Dota 2, which is such a complex game itself, I think it could be quite hard to understand what to do better and what's wrong and what not.
Yeah, it's hard. Like that in-house game, might have just been like a bad game, right? Just chalk it up to having an off game, but then there's still stuff to be learned. I just think I'm glad I'm playing in this because I do think I've gotten kind of stagnant and a little too, I guess, blasé with how I've been playing. So it's really a nice wake up call to like examine what I'm doing wrong and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's just by nature of just playing in the higher ranked game as opposed to talking about what went wrong. I mean, we talked about it after. It could have just been because it is captain's mode, right? So part of it is maybe the draft wasn't the best, or we first picked Wyvern, and then I felt like, which was it's a fine first pick, but then the other team really had a nice draft. It was like I had no one to Winter's Curse. I mean, they had a carry bounty hunter and a mid Zeus. So who am I supposed to Winter's Curse? Like that's not going to kill anyone.
Yeah,
ever.
I think Wyvern's very much a reactionary 5.
I mean, we got kills in lane, and we had a nice little thing, but then we kind of just got swallowed up, and then I don't know, the new Zeus so much damage. It was so crazy, and he got arcane runes all the time. So at the end when we got throned, we had 3 Nimbuses on our ancient because of just refresher and a cooldown time. It's 20-second cooldown basically on Nimbus. Like, it was tough.
That's wild.
But it was good to learn. I mean, yes, I had no gold that game because we had about carry bounty hunters. So I was like, okay, I'm going to buy like 6,000 gold worth of support items because I know that the 4 we were playing with isn't going to buy anything wards, and I'm cool with that because that guy is like an immortal and way better than me. So I would rather he be enabled, versus have what am I going to do as a Wyvern with 1 extra item?
Yeah, absolutely.
They're just good experiences.
Yeah, I think to Marco's point, both aspects are important for learning. So both when you're playing in a higher ranked game, that it's both the fact that you're playing in the higher ranked game and that pushes you, it just forcefully pushes you. You have to step up or you get crushed. So like you automatically will be like playing to like an upper end of your like distribution of skill ability. Like it forces you to do that or the game's just over.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to focus.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you pay attention. And then there is learning to be had for sure. Like we talked about, there are just some knowledge aspects in Dota that can just make a difference. So if someone can give you a few words afterwards about something, you might pick up something there. But for me, I think the primary thing would be the actual just playing and getting pushed into to perform in that higher level where your mistakes are punished sooner. It's like Adam said, you learn when you see your own mistakes, and sometimes you don't see your own mistakes, say in a lane. Just with a simple thing like last hitting, you might not even know you're making mistakes at your level because the opponent's not good enough to punish the mistake, so you don't see that it's a mistake.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, the idea of if you've got teammates who are more experienced or higher medal or whatever that can A, identify your mistakes, which you may not see, and then B, you may not know the answer to certain things like I've just been crushed in this matchup, or we were against this lineup and I didn't know how to itemize, or I didn't know how me or our team should optimally play. And the reasons may be just because you're not experienced or not familiar, whatever. And so if you've got a teammate or a Dota buddy that you can get answers from, that's where I was kind of thinking it could be value, rather different to the value of playing in a harder game.
Sure, I'd push back on that a little bit in that, to give an example, imagine we're playing like a duo lane and but it's in a low MMR game, and I'm supporting you, but I'm like stood in this position that you, as a good immortal player, you're like looking at my positioning and you're thinking, what the hell? Why are you standing there? Like, you're so out of position, right? And you might tell me that.
Yeah.
Whilst I might be all ears for what you're telling me, I think just human nature, I don't know if this is just me being, very not wanting to listen to people, but I think it's in human nature that compare that situation versus we play this duo lane in a higher ranked game and I'm getting punished for being out of position, I'm getting harassed, I'm getting pushed back, or we're missing last hits. If there's actual direct result of it,
yeah,
a repercussion for it,
yeah,
you'll learn. I think you would learn. You'll take the same message home about the positioning, but you'll take it home way more. If then the higher ranked player can say it in that context and point out and go, look, you got harassed down to half because of this positioning. Like, if it's both there, then I think that's even better and that would be optimal. But
yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and part of that I've been kind of thinking about. So even just playing in that Dota 2 league in my team and playing all those games and practicing in all those games, maybe I've started to ingrain some bad habits that because I've lost like 250 MMR in solo just like recently. And
Okay.
it's like, maybe that's because I've ingrained these bad habits, and I'm just, instead of it being like basically it's like a party game where, there is a divine on each team, a couple ancients on each team, and then a couple legends and below on each team. Instead of playing those type of games, if you're playing a game where everybody's divine, like, you can't bank on getting kills in the laning stage, or you can't build certain things,
Yeah, I think it's so valuable actually if you can have this certain groups of players that you can play with where you can be pushed and stepped up. I feel like I'm not a great player, hovering just under 4K, but I've hovered just under 4K over 5 years without hardly playing.
it's actually relatively pretty good, by the way.
Yeah, I feel like I've cemented that because of all the opportunity I get to play duo queue with an immortal player. So I'm actually playing at whatever that is, 4 and something K average. And so I think the value of having those kind of people to play with is really high. And especially in Adam's example, he was in this game where he was the lowest, and he took the 5 roll, took the kind of bitch roll, and took it the wards and all that, because maybe in that case he was a little bit too much in out of his depth, perhaps. He was trying to do the best he could in that game to win that game, which meant kind of taking this 5 roll kind of to the extreme, where he was buying all the wards and he was trying to facilitate the players around him, like you mentioned before. So he said how he was trying to facilitate his 4 because it was an immortal player. But the difference in a party game with high rank players where they're more like your mates or family, as it may be, the benefit of that is I can go into that game and say I can get mid, and I can play mid against a high ranked player, or I can play off lane, I can play a core role against the higher ranked players who are gonna push me. They're gonna punish me. They're gonna push me to up my game and play well. And I think that's real sweet like learning zone.
I think now you've mentioned that point, I really agree, and I really do think that there's massive value that we have in our games where we're five, so you can coordinate who plays where, who wants to play what. You know each other, so you're not going to cry because your lowest rank or lowest medals going mid, and then yeah, like you say, we can balance out the fact that you're going mid and you're getting someone who's a medal higher than you. We've done this loads with Stan. I swear must have helped Stan's development. We've done it with you, and that probably like keeps your skill not total garbage because you're getting pushed. And then you know that it's kind of counterbalanced with, say, the side lanes, or you'll have me or Adam balance it out against someone who's then lower rank than us, whilst you're like mid against someone who's higher rank. And I think that is the sweet spot of kind of, at least for the people who are at the average or below the average, to really benefit from party games. You benefit from the actual game, you benefit from kind of the team and the friendly setup you're in. You're not in some kind of hostile 2-stack, 3-stack, or hostile solo. Yeah, I really agree with that point.
And I think it's a luxury that we've maybe all had kind of naturally for whatever reason, that a lot of people don't have, whether it's because the people they play with are low ranked, because obviously there's less higher ranked players, so it's more rare to have like high ranked friends, or let's face it, we might just be loading up playing some Dota because we like to spend time with ourselves and we're not going out there socializing and all that stuff. So for both those reasons, it like compounds it being rare. So a quick little drop to say, again, join the new meta community. And there are a bunch of people, aren't there, genuinely, who are saying like they're taking people under the wings and like giving tips and playing games with and stuff. So
yeah, I think it's one of the most fun times you can play Dota as well. Even aside from the idea of, okay, how can I push myself and improve, or how can I like stay sharp, like if you're a really casual gamer like you are now, just the idea of being in a 5-man stack where you can coordinate like what heroes you want to play. You're not like pressured to pick the offlane hero and pick one of 3 meta offlane heroes. Like you've got license to play that random Willow. I mean, okay, Willow 1 is a bit too far, but Willow 3, I remember doing once at party, like fun stuff like that. I definitely shout out to that vibe of the party queuing for sure.
and like you said, I feel like we've definitely helped boost Stan recently. We've got to take all the credit for his super hard-earned climb, because he shot up through the ranks really quick. Might be interesting in the future to contrast those stories between Adam and Stan. I wonder what Adam thinks about that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what Stan thinks about it as well. It makes me think of watching him play Lena, and I'm taking full credit for his 60% Lena win rate now, or whatever it is. I really enjoyed watching it. I think it was like 2 games in person. I was behind him watching him play Lena and had like good chat about what I observed, and he then, I feel like, took on board at least some of what I was suggesting, and not saying that I know all the answers, but I could help him a little bit, and his Lena's beastly now, so I'll take a little slice of that credit.
Yeah, if you've helped Lena with Stan with his Lena, I would probably need you to do that with me. I have like a 37% win rate on Lena.
Sign me up
over like 60 games, so it's real bad. One of my worst win rate heroes that I've actually played a significant amount of games on.
Yikes! Do you play this mid or some funky support Lena?
Most of the time it's mid, I think. Although I've tried it all over, I'm sure. But yeah, I think playing with players higher than you, I mean, playing with people higher than you is of a benefit. It does force you to learn and get better, but there is like, I think, a edge where if the opponent is like too much higher than you, then you kind of lose the chance to learn, because you just get stomped really hard and you just feel like you've done everything wrong. There's really no one direction to take. Like, say if you were a Crusader versus an Immortal mid.
Yeah, it gets to a point when if the discrepancy is too large, it really is a waste of time. And that's, I guess, why a lot of people really don't like Smurfers, is because usually you classify Smurf as someone who's playing way above their level. So it's not competitive for the other 9 people. It's not fun for the other 9 people. A lot of people also question the motives of the Smurfer. Why are they playing 3,000 MMR below the level? So yeah, it's definitely a range that you need to be in. What do you think is the most helpful aspect, and then maybe more interestingly, the most unhelpful aspect of, say, we're playing parties, or you're experiencing party games which have been like out of your depth, not out of your depth, but like above your average?
Yeah, so in the party games where I'm like on the lower end, you just see people live a lot more. That's what's crazy, is like they live longer. They prolong their death so long, like, oh, I can't help. And then it's like 15 seconds later, like, oh, well, I definitely could have helped there, type of thing. And it doesn't matter what hero, it seems. Like yesterday, somebody was Legion Commander, and that's a hero I've played a lot. And he was like 1v3, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. He died. He was a mid Legion Commander. And then he like mans up 1v3. I think he kills 2 of them and gets away. And it was like, what? How did you even do that? And he's just like, I cast overwhelming odds and killed them, and then I had 500 move speed, so I ran away. And I'm like, I mean, when you say it like that, it sounds really easy, but. And then I just think people, the higher they are, they know the limits of the hero more, and just seeing the limits of the hero is a big help. Just seeing how far you can push it, seeing how somebody can make a Necrophos live for as long as they do, and like carry as a Necrophos, like a 1 position. And when everybody, like, typically, if you're losing the game super hard, you don't think your position 1 Necro is going to like rip you back into it just solely off of being better, but it happened.
It is possible.
Then, good lessons. And then, like you said, if you do play these party games, sometimes you get to try out some new stuff. You don't have to like be bound to the meta. So like what we did yesterday, I played position 1 Wraith King, and I went standard Midas Radiance, but then at level 15 I went 35 skeleton damage over 15 strength talent, and then at 20 instead of no mana cost reincarnation, I got ×2 skeletons. And then I went Vlad's and AC, and they were like just fighting. I took it was down to their last lane of racks. They were all fighting. I took, T3 racks, huts, tier 4s, ancient, while they were all fighting. They're like, what just happened? And then they were so intrigued by it. And then the next game we went off lane Wraith King, and someone else tried it with Helm and stuff. And it's just, we think it's so super OP now. So
that Wraith King Dark Will used to be such a common combo. EG with Crit and S4 were throwing that out every game, I felt. And even in pubs, I felt like it was a thing where people suddenly realized this off-lane pushing Wraith King could be really menacing. I don't know why that's not been seen in ages. I've not seen that in ages, I feel.
They changed stuff around. Like, it used to be that crit would one-shot creeps, right? And that's how you get charges, and now you have to get 2 creeps.
True.
But then they've also added, like, that the skeletons respawn now one time after you kill them. I think they might have nerfed the skeletons, and then they got bad, and now they're like super good again. You can just throw them out in a team fight, and they'll solo kill a support. Like, they will zone a support on their own, and then you just get to take the fight. It's really funny to watch, actually.
Yeah, I really forgot about that.
Yeah, they were trying to. So I went Vlad's on Wraith King, and they were like, they started to kind of flame me a little bit. They were like, why do you have this item? And then they started to ping my aura, and I'm like, so my skeletons will do more damage. And then they're like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
because they do their base attack time's like 1.2, and they deal with a talent that's like 72 damage each, and then you're spawning 16 of them with the 20 talent. So it's like 1,000 DPS or something. I don't know.
This makes me really want to try out an off-lane Wraith King.
I'm telling you,
again.
it is so
Jesus,
fun.
it sounds like so much potential. Going to just thinking of when you mentioned earlier being Winter Wyvern in the in-house you were playing and feeling out of your depth, what do you think would have helped you cope better, or how do you think your teammates or friends you're playing with could have kind of acted or reacted to help you with your game, or kind of show you the rope, not show you the ropes, but just improve your experience or your learning of the game? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, everyone was still like trying to win the game. It was a kind of a stomp. There's still everyone was PMA.
You got
Like,
stomped, or your team?
Yeah,
stomped?
we got super stomped.
Okay.
That was a game where like we first picked Wyvern, and then their draft just did not have any Wyvern targets. It's like position 1 bounty hunter and a Zeus mid.
It was more.
So then it's like it was like kind of a draft thing, but everyone was still trying to win, which was nice.
Yeah, it was more a draft thing rather than I'm in just a random kind of game and getting screwed gameplay wise.
Right. It was nice trying to dig it back out, and we had some moments. I mean, like we had a fine like laning stage. Like we won the laning stage, I think, like Wyvern, Ember Spirit. Like we had kills and stuff. But then once Track Gold gets on top, and then like Zeus, we just couldn't get to him, type of thing.
Feels bad.
But it's just like I mean, you just learn. If I had to do that over, I think I would have been probably a little more aggressive in my positioning and just trying to shove waves with Splinter Blast and make sure I get relevant levels on time.
So you felt like you could still see where you could have done better or what you would do differently?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think you learnt anything from the other team and how the other team smashed you? Do you take anything from that, do you reckon?
Learning from that. I mean, they just pressed their advantage. I thought they itemized really well. They played Zeus really well, like really aggressively, but also since it was like Aether Lens blink, he would just blink in the trees and have vision from track, and he's like, I can't see him, but he's blowing me up from the from the trees.
Yeah, track has so much synergy with certain heroes.
And I've always rated position 1 bounty like highly, so it was nice seeing that still work.
Gorp bounty.
Yeah, or Mason would play it a lot on stream.
A final question that I would have still in this kind of realm is, what's the biggest difference you could tell or notice or feel in that, say, Wyvern game you got crushed versus these lower average MMR pub games that you would feel like you couldn't lose? What do you think the biggest distinction between the two is?
Probably just positioning, I would think. Spell usage and positioning.
So people being able to...
People just punish super hard if you're out of position. And it seems that in these, in the higher games, they also communicate it. Like, just like, okay, we kill this guy right now. And you just do it.
They're on the same wavelength and boom, Dota AI kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Just like...
They both know you're out of position. Both know that their spells together can kill you in sync.
Yeah.
And just blow you up.
It's just like, if a Crystal Maiden takes one step too far forward, it's over, type of thing. Because people just get comfortable being like, I'll totally be allowed to walk up and help try to deny this creep as a Crystal Maiden with 40 damage, or I'll be able to walk up and cast my spell. And they already have the trap. It's not like a conscious thing, right? They just know that if you come up, they're going to go on you.
That's an interesting one, because it's something you wouldn't learn really explicitly in the lower average game, because you wouldn't be punished for it in the lower average game. But then if you do this drastic jump up, like 1,000 or 2,000 MMR or whatever, you suddenly find all these areas that you can't get away with, or that would be detrimental to do in the high level games. But I guess the beauty of this massive continuous distribution of ranks and whatever is this gradual improvement. But then you can only see the stark errors or misplays if you do this kind of jump to a party game.
If you get thrown into it, right? And then you're just like, oh, God.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and that's why RD2L is nice. I mean, that's how that kind of goes, right? Is typically just the way the MMR distribution works in a team is that the carry will be one of the higher MMRs, and then the support will be one of the lower. And then laning stages are like bloodbaths because supports will just be wildly out of position, and every team's like feeding on each other's supports, punishing them over and over. So it's a good lesson.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. What I also enjoy with parties is we touched on this, like, the communication point of, well, when you're in those high average games and you felt like people were on the same wavelength and they therefore chop your head off if you ever step a foot out of line and punish you. A great thing about playing in party games is the whole idea of communication. I mean, that itself is a massive topic. We spoke about it a lot. But just in a like PMA sense, it's actually so fun when you can have that communication and high level strategy of your team. I think that's one of the most fun aspects I find with playing Dota. But then also thinking about party games and, say, being above the average, I really like it as a means for practicing heroes I'm less familiar with, or not less familiar, but less out of practice with. So I might be a bit rusty. When you've got some really mechanical heroes like Morphling springs to mind, Invoker maybe, just any hero that you've not played quite a lot of games on recently. I always find playing in party games a really good way to kind of dust the cobwebs off, know that you're in slightly less pressure because you don't care as much about your party MMR, but you still want to win, and then often the games will be lower average, so you're not going to get as punished as hard, you don't need to play as well. So that's the kind of final point I'd have to the parties for why I enjoy them. I think that's been a nice discussion.
Yes, sir. Just try and take away one little bit of info from every game, and then over 1,000 games, you'll be a lot better.
You'll be a god gamer.
So on that note, I think we'll wrap up. I don't want to overstay my welcome as a guest host, so we'll have a nice crisp ending. Thanks for Marco and Adam who've joined me, and thanks to all you who have listened, and thanks to everyone in the Discord who filled out the survey. There was a couple of interesting episode ideas that were thrown in there, so that was cool. Next episode is going to be coming out next Tuesday, that's 23rd of April. Stay tuned. Stan the Magic T will be back. So
let's hope he can come back from his journey with some inspiring insight from the Scottish Highlands. Maybe he's found some PMA whilst he was up there. Maybe he's found some MMR to bring back. Who knows?
Boy needs some.
I know he needs some, after his recent journey in the solos. But yeah,
boy needs some PMA.
Lots to look forward to.
Loads to look forward to. So thanks to Adam. Thanks to Marco. This has been great. Thanks for having me as well.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
That's a wrap, Ref. Take it away.